Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. In this episode, Dorsey interviews another special guest that will give you hope and inspire you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Dorsey Ross podcast. Today, we have a special guest with us. Her name is Olivia Vendetti, and she is a girl with a big heart for Jesus, with one mission: to live each day like it's the best day ever. Olivia can be found on the social media platforms through Live from Joy, where she documents daily her life, travels, faith, and all the strangers she meets. Olivia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Dorsey, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Absolutely. Well, just a little background for our listeners. Olivia and I met just randomly, really, at a Starbucks. She was in there and she was talking to someone I knew from church, and I went over to say hello to the woman from church, and the woman said, "Hey, do you know Olivia?" And I was like, "No, I don't know Olivia." And then Olivia and I got talking, and she told me about her podcast and what she does. And, we just became friends, and we talk on social media once in a while, but she, does a lot of traveling. And we'll talk about, the travels that she's done and what she does with her podcast today. But we'll, go into some easy questions, and then we'll get into her story.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Where did you grow up, and did that affect who you became?
Okay. Absolutely, it affected who I am today. So I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I'm local to the whole Exton, Downingtown area. I'm born and raised in Chester County, and I'm actually one of 9 children. I am the middle child of one of 9 children, and my parents actually were separated by the time I was 5 years old. So naturally, that comes with just the responsibilities of being the big sister, taking care of my family and just being, that middle child. But I was also, basically, I grew up the middle child with my mom because my mom had 9 children. But when I would go to my father's house, my father had 5 out of the 9 children, and I was the oldest. So I had 2 roles. I was the middle child, but I was also the oldest child when I would go to my dad's house. So all in all, it totally made me who I am: strong, independent, driven, but all the good things. I love people. I can easily adapt to places. I love traveling. I can easily find myself talking to literally anyone. And I think just my experience, growing up, I was always surrounded with so much love, and we all made it work. Even through the difficulties and the struggles that everybody faces, and everyone has their own story, and that was just my story. It was part of who I am. But yeah, it really just created a beautiful, I feel a whole redemption as I continued on my life of just how God has used me in so many people's life.
Yeah. Now, how did you become a Christian? Did you grow up in a Christian home, and how did that come about?
I did not grow up in a Christian home. I actually came to know Christ just from my grandfather inviting me to church one day, and I accepted Christ that day. It was March 10th, 2019. I was 18 years old, and I had no idea what it meant to be a follower of Jesus. I literally used to, in my mind, I used to just be how are people so Jesus? How do people talk about Jesus? Jesus? I did not understand because I thought that I knew everything that there was to know about God because I grew up going to CCD. I got my sacraments, and I had no idea that there was a real raw living relationship with God that existed. And I just, I didn't understand that there was more to know about God than just him being in the clouds. For the gospel, I heard that there's a story for me, that I'm chosen, I'm loved, that God literally uniquely chose and crafted me to be the way that I am. And I took that and I'm like, I want more of this. And I became a follower of Jesus. And my life has been completely changed ever since that day on March 10th, 2019. Now it's been almost 4 years of following Jesus.
That's awesome. What is CCD for, my listeners that may not know what that is?
Yes. So CCD is actually, I guess what a tradition that you go through as a Catholic. That's like when I grew up. Like, I mean, I went to church like the occasional Christmas, Easter, but in like the Catholic Church, you go through these things called the sacraments. And they're just I'm so bad. I feel like I can't even explain it because I feel like I did not even know what I was doing. But CCD, you just go through these sacraments like confirmation, baptism as a child, like all these things. Um, I don't even know how to explain CCD.
No,
Actually,
that's fine.
okay, CCD means Confraternity Christian Doctrine. It just means the religious education of children who are in public school. Yeah. So, yeah, that's that.
We hear more and more, about this generation, your generation, not accepting Christ or not going to church as often as the older generations would. What I know you said you did it. The first time you went to church on that Sunday. What was it about that Sunday, and why do you think your generation and maybe the group that you hang out with don't go to church that often anymore?
Yeah, I feel like there's so many layers to it. So I'll start. For me, I grew up, I uniquely had this desire about my life that I wanted to be different. I wanted to stand out. And so it was so easy for the gospel to appeal to me because I already was sort of like, I wouldn't say I was an outcast because I had friends, but in my high school experience, I never partied. Like I never drank. I never did any of the things that typical students experience. I never did any of those things. And I definitely felt so lonely and isolated, but I would never call myself lonely because I still just had like the best time ever. I just enjoyed my life. And I think God really put like the spirit in me before I even knew him to just kind of not desire those things. I'm very grateful for that because it definitely saved me from a lot of heartache. And so I'm grateful for just how he prepared my heart. So I'm really grateful for how God has how he had already prepared a heart for me to just want to be different and like not take that typical route. So it was so easy for me to receive the gospel because I was already like this soul that needed like that spot filled, and I instantly it just like made sense and it clicked, and I'm so grateful for that. But I think in general, a lot of people, I think it just comes down to the fact that they just don't know the love of God and they're more focused. They think of church and they just think of like the rules and the regulations and how you have to dress a certain way and how you have to be a certain way, and how maybe like the church as a group, as a whole, may not be welcoming based off their experiences. I think you're absolutely an outcome of just kind of your environment. That doesn't mean your environment has to label you. Like just because you didn't grow up in a Christian household like me doesn't mean you can't ever receive the gospel. But I just think like there's probably a lot of hurt that has been done. And I think a lot of people think that by following Jesus, you are, I think people think like you lose a part of you, when actually, because I just think about my thoughts, and what I came to found is I actually found who I am, because you can only find who you are in the one who made you. Like God, the creator, made us as his creation. And why are we going to all these other places to find our purpose when the one who is our maker made us for a purpose. He's the one who knows the answer to our purpose, and we need to be going to the one who literally crafted us. That's where we're gonna find, like, he is our life source. Like, that is where we need to go to find the true hope and joy that dwells in Jesus. So there's so many different experiences, different reasons for why. I just think in general, people just don't know the love of God, and they're missing that. Like, they're missing that when they hear about Christian faith, Jesus. Like, they just, and I think us as believers, we have the answer now, and we have the ability to walk into the street, walk into stores, go places. Every person you meet, you can encounter them with the love of Jesus. And we need to do that more.
Amen. What's one of your biggest challenges in life?
One of my biggest challenges in life, that is, you're asking some really good questions today. Okay, one of my biggest challenges in life, I think recently I'm finding that I have always had a very go, 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 different places, moving to my mom and dad's house, traveling. Like, I lived in an apartment. I just had a life that was so, like, not constant. Like, I never had any consistency in my life. I feel like there were just so many moving pieces, moving parts of my life. And right now, I think one of my challenges that I would say I'm encountering right now in this moment actually is just finding peace to be exactly where I'm at without um without needing, like, the I guess expectations of, like, the next place. Like, I feel like in my mind I would always have, like, a next place I was going to. And even though my motto is living every day because the best day ever, I was able to do that easily when my life was so busy because I could only focus on that day ahead. But now I have, like, nothing going on. I'm, like, a recent college graduate. I'm not used to not being in school. I've never not been in school my entire life. And I'm used to just having so many moving parts that for the first time in my life, it's like everything is still and I have nothing else to run to anymore. And so I have to, like, I'm really being, like, I feel like God's just challenging me to really know, like, what it means to just, like, sit in the peace of him, and knowing, like, what it means to just sometimes have, like, a quiet season where you're not always go, 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 like, doing all these things, going to all these events, and just finding peace truly in today, and still knowing that you're walking in the purpose of him. Even if what your expectations of that looks like might be different, it's like I'm still walking in his purpose.
Amen. What did you go to college for, and where did you go to college?
I went to college at Westchester University and I studied political science, international relations because of the very fact that I love people, I love travel, and I love documenting life. And I was like, halfway through, it was COVID. I was like, I just need to pick something. I was originally there to study computer science and engineering. I was like, during COVID, that this career field is not for me. And to be honest, I actually never had a desire to go to school. But like, fortunately, I did have, like, the resources and I've been working my butt off. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And I worked hard and I got no debt out of university. And I decided political science, international relations. And technically, I mean, I guess it all came full circle because here I am in Albania.
Your motto is live each day like it's the best day ever. How do you want to do that, and how will you tell others to do that and to visualize that in their life?
Well, Dorsey, do you know why today is the best day ever? Do you know why today is the best day ever? Where's yesterday?
In the past,
And are we guaranteed tomorrow?
we don't know when I'm going to tomorrow.
Yeah, so what are we left with?
Right, today.
Right. So how I just tell people to kind of, how I would kind of apply that when I share this with other people is, it doesn't mean it doesn't make today the best day ever by always doing something crazy and exciting and fun. literally today's the best day ever because it's literally the only day that we're living in, and it's the only day that you have. And that doesn't mean you need to go run rampant and go crazy and do all that stuff. But it's like, what can you do today to really be like more satisfied, or maybe just make like that small impact? Like how I feel like we just need to, it really just starts with like opening up our eyes and realizing that we don't have forever to live, and we're not guaranteed forever in the future. But at the same time, like we're alive today, and that should not be wasted. And I think we get so used to the mundane and the routine that we forget how much of a gift it is that we can breathe, and that we have that we can use our skills or our passions and our gifts to share it with the world. And so I just hope that when people hear that, it's kind of like a shock. It's like, what? What do you mean today's the best day ever? I remember when I first heard that, it was during COVID, and I actually put on this podcast. I was crying. It was such a hard day during COVID. I turned on a podcast, and the person was saying one of their best pieces of advice that they had been given by their dad was that they should wake up every day like it's the best day ever. And I literally was like, what? That's like the worst advice ever. And then I think it like actually like it like kind of like shocked my heart though. Like I not that I wasn't saying like it's the worst advice ever, but like I was just kind of like, what? Like how? Like how can it? Because like when you hear that, you think it has to be something extraordinary, but actually it is extraordinary that we have today. And I think something in that moment pierced my heart because it was such a difficult, challenging day, and I was not one to usually like express my emotions. So to hear that phrase in that moment, I was like, wow, like it started to awaken something in my soul to be like, today does not need to go wasted. Like we only have today. And then it turned into like a year later or so where I ended up like really making it my motto and creating a podcast out of it. And so I simply do it by just starting my day off by just asking God, like, how do you want to use me today? Like, what do you want to like do with my life today? Put people in my path. It's for me, I think it's the most fulfilling to just know that I'm making an impact on someone else's life by just being me. And everybody can just, by being them, they can make an impact.
Yeah. And I think especially when you hear that, during the pandemic and everything that we were going through, I can see how it could be a shock to hear them be like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Do you know what's going on in the world right now? How can you say today's the best day ever when we're going through a pandemic of this proportion?
Yeah. It literally like pierced my heart. And I feel like I actually watch other people when I say that. I feel like I see like a shock in their eyes. Like it almost like gives them like that pierce. Cause it's like when you first hear that, that's just so not normal. You hear like have a good day. But like to genuinely tell someone like not just like under your breath, like have the best day ever, but like to genuinely mean like today is the best day ever. It like it does something. It stirs something in someone's heart. And that's what I want, is for them to take advantage of this day that we are gifted.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what made you start the podcast.
Yes, I would love to talk about this. So I only had 1 year at Westchester University in person because I was a community college student at Delco Community College for my freshman year. Then I took off a semester and I transferred to Westchester for 5 weeks. And then COVID hit and I was online for 1 year and a half. And then my final year, it was my first full year as a in-person student. And I just had this feeling on my heart that God was telling me that he's just going to use me as a light on campus. Like he put me through a refiner during COVID. I learned so much about myself, and I just felt like he was going to use me. He's going to use all that. I felt like during COVID, I went through a refiner and he was going to really use me. I was writing in my journal. It was August of 2021. And I was like, God's going to use me as a light on campus. And I had no idea what that meant, but I just felt like the Holy Spirit had just come so alive in my life. And I really could see so clearly like the joy that he has given me. So through the joy of the Spirit, I just remember the very first day of university. I had no idea that I was going to create a podcast, but it was my first day of university. And I stepped outside my house and I just had this feeling like the Holy Spirit was just like, this is where it all begins. And I was just more focused. I literally felt like my only purpose of getting a college degree was just so that I could like end up being on campus senior year to share Jesus with people. And I walk out my apartment and I just see someone standing right there. And instantly I just go, hey, good morning. And this is when we were still having to wear masks on campus. Nobody has been socializing for a year and a half because of the pandemic. So everybody thought I was like the weirdest person ever. But I just love people. Like I genuinely just have like a heart for people. I love people. I love watching people smile. I love doing like the smallest thing that makes someone feel seen. So right away, I step out my house and I see this kid and I go, hey, good morning. And they're like, hey. And we start walking to class and we're just talking. And so many moments like that were built up that by October, it was only a month. By October, I was like, I am meeting so many people, hearing so many stories. And every day I was just gathering names and names of people. I was writing them in my journal. I've been praying for these people. Some people would even actually have conversations about Jesus with. I would just sit with people in the library, strangers, like all these people. I was just gathering like so much, just stories that I was like, I need to way to document these lives. That I was like, maybe I have like a YouTube channel. Maybe I don't know. And then finally, through like all this, like, how should I channel all this? I ended up making the best day ever podcast because just it really is the best day ever. Every day that I would meet someone. And I think it was like such a miracle that you ever could meet a stranger. And I think God was just like revealing so many things and thoughts. And I was just finding so much awe in God during those days. And I just felt like God was in every single moment with me as I'm meeting all these people, meeting all these strangers, just sharing, like using me to just share his love and share his light onto all these strangers. So I ended up creating the Best Day Ever podcast because I wanted a platform for all these individuals to share their life and share their story, whether they were believers or not believers. Everyone was created by God, and you can actually learn more about God by knowing someone else because we were all made in his image.
Amen. So you're in Albania right now, correct?
Correct.
And I would follow you before you got to Albania. I would follow you on your previous trips, and like every other week you're like in a different country somehow. And tell us about that, and tell us about how that got started. And you weren't even on a mission trip; you were literally, as far as I know, by yourself traveling to these different countries.
So this past summer, actually, I was doing an internship. I was doing an internship this summer with a ministry called Young Life. And I had just got done leading a Young Life ministry at my local high school for 2 years. I miss them so much. But I was a Young Life leader, basically where we have clubs and meetings with kids, introduce the gospel to kids who've never even heard about Jesus. So I did that for 2 years. That when I graduated, I always knew that Young Life International existed. So I did some researching, and I feel like it was just a God thought on my mind to just look up. It was like right before I was graduating university. I had no plans, and I just felt like he was telling me to look up Young Life International. So I did, and that led me on a 2-month journey, traveling all across Central and Eastern Europe. We went to the Balkans, Albania, Bulgaria. We went to up north in Poland. We went to Hungary, Czech Republic. Basically, went to all these places for camps that were hosting a whole week of Jesus, like learning and sharing about Jesus to these kids. And I had the honor of being the videographer. So every day I would create a daily recap of that day. And it was insane. And I made like over 60 films this summer. I was working with the program team, creating skits. It was a journey, but it was the most beautiful thing ever. The best part was not only just all the fun and adventuring and all the close relationships and friendships I was able to build, but it would be that I was watching all these other nations and tongues and languages praying to the same God that like I believe in, and I just had never experienced or witnessed like people from other countries praying, and I think that just opened up my eyes to just see how like how much of in a bubble I was living in, not really ever fully grasping just how widespread like God is moving, and like the movement of Jesus, how he's been moving for centuries. Was like such an amazing thing to experience.
That's cool. Now, how did you end up being in Albania?
I ended up being in Albania because one of the camps that I got to experience was took place in Erseka. And I loved Albania so much. I loved the culture. It just really like struck me during my whole internship, and I just knew I needed to come back here. And I actually had the opportunity to come back here for the month of September. I lived here for 1 month, and during that time I got more plugged into just ministry here, that when I went back home for the holidays, I knew I had to come back here, along with the fact that my boyfriend actually lives here in Albania. And so through obviously my new relationship and then ministry and wanting to see revival happen here, I just love the culture, the beauty. Like Albanians, I love people everywhere, but Albanians, they just have this like they just live with so much like honor and respect for people, and especially their own people. And I just love how alive the tradition is after all these years. Like they have like such like a like the country of Albania has such like a crazy story, and they've overcome so much. And so I'm just really excited to be here and just to see how God will use me. And I feel like it's just the beginning.
Awesome. Now, is this going to be a long-term thing, or do you think you'll come home at some point, or is that a day like just a dog thing and just waiting on him?
I would absolutely say it is all in God's hands. I'm just feel like I'm here for the ride. I have a vision of what I would like to do. I'm currently here for a set for like 5 or 6 months. But it really is just all in God's hands, and I'm gonna just wait on him to give me to wait on that answered prayer.
Amen. As we get ready to end here, how do you want to be remembered?
I wanna be remembered for I feel like I when I really dig deep, I want to be remembered for living simply a life that is under Jesus' name. Like I want to be someone that has lived a life that is just truly honoring to God. And I think it just starts from just having a heart that has just been refined so much that I feel like I'm gonna be on that journey my entire whole life of like constantly every day battling like flesh with spirit, but really just loving others like how Jesus did, making my small impact in God's great story. And yeah, I just want to see people come to know Christ.
Amen. Now, this might be a little bit of a curveball question for you, but some people may look at this interview, either they'll hear it later or they'll watch it on YouTube or watch part of it on YouTube or whatnot, and they'll see a very happy, very outgoing young lady, and they'll be like, how is she so happy all the time? And obviously, we know it's Jesus, and we know it's, God in your life. We know that 110%. But when you have a bad day in your life, or when you're having, obviously in the Bible it says, troubles and hard times will come, and obviously how do you, I mean, how do you deal with that? I mean, obviously, we all turn to God and whatnot, but when you're having a a bad day, how do you get through those bad days?
I feel like if you believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and you believe just the words that he's spoken, that God has a plan for you and that he's going to use everything for good. Um, it's crazy, but it's true that he just provides a uncomprehendable amount of peace that it just kind of I feel like what did it's like in a song, and obviously verses in the Bible, it says like the joy of the Lord is my strength. And whether you're a believer or non-believer, like the joy of the Lord really is alive and he is real. And if you believe in him, um, there is like this joy that can like overcome you in all circumstances. And I think that it's just like in my brain, like in my DNA, like it's just like knit that like none of these things define you. Like the things that we experience here on earth, like do not define you. And the only thing that defines you is who God says you are, and you're loved, and there's nothing that can separate you from his love. And but to be more practical, because I'll get more practical. I would say what I do on a hard day is first I journal. I definitely journal. I will like maybe step outside, I go for a walk. I just need to process my thoughts. I take a lot of time like processing. I'm like a very like internal thinker. So I do a lot of just like praying, journaling, and if I need to take the next step after going to God, I will like talk to friends, or I'll just do something to like rechannel my attention back on the day and not to
Right.
get too in the thoughts. So I think everybody has things that are unique to them that they can do, but for me, it's just being creative, making videos, and just keep going, sharing the love.
And then one last question, and I ask all my guests this question: what encouragement would you give to the listeners?
All these questions you're thinking, I like wish I could just sit with them for like a day and just really dive deep, but that's probably better that I just get asked on the spot. But um I would just say, whoever you are, um, God is not finished with you yet. And there really is just a beautiful life ahead of you. And you are so valuable, and your presence makes an impact. You don't know it, but there's people that you encounter during the day that maybe they don't say anything to acknowledge it, but you make a presence and you make an impact in people's lives. So don't stop shining your light and don't stop being who you are, because you are beautiful.
Amen. Well, Olivia, thank you so much again for coming on the show today. I know this was, you know, almost to the last minute of talking about this and getting this taken care of, and with a 6 hour difference to where you are. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And can I just like mention like my platform?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, once again, my name's Olivia Vendetti-Spahr. If you're looking to get some any positive content, or if you have any questions, feel free to just reach out on Instagram. All my platforms are actually under this username at Live From Joy, LIVFROMJOY. I would love to dive deeper into any questions. And you can also tune into my podcast, Best Day Ever podcast with Olivia. So hope you guys have a beautiful day. You're loved, you're chosen. Dorsey, thank you so much. It was an honor to be on the podcast with you. And you are amazing. Keep shining your light. Keep doing what you're doing because you really do make an impact. And I pray that God will bless you this year and that you just keep carrying on the love.
You as well. Guys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I hope you like and share and review this podcast and this episode. And have a great day. And then until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye.
Thank you again for joining Dorsey Ross on this episode of The Dorsey Ross Show. Please like, share, and tell others about the show. Also, please check out the other podcast episodes. And if you would like, donate to this podcast and buy Dorsey a coffee. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.